Hello everyone, Brekkerazin here, and today we have a special mock that was commissioned. This is the J-Wing from the concept art of The Force Awakens. One of the things that I really think held back the sequels was the reuse of old ships and no innovation. While we eventually got models like the E-Wing, remaking old designs felt a bit lazy. The J-Wing really stands out as something new, although if you take a closer look, you'll notice a lot of concepts from previous ships. It's asymmetrical like the B-Wing, has missiles and probably bombs like the Y-Wing, and even has a similar cockpit and astromech droid like the X-Wing, plus similar markings. However, it does bring new ideas to the table and could have been really awesome to see in live action. Instructions are available on Rebrickable, and they're also linked in the description. For some of the renders, I also used the universal stand, which I made a while ago, and that will also be linked below. The part that took the most amount of time to design was the cockpit. There are a lot of interesting and compact details in this section, so it was natural that this would be the last thing to work on. It felt very Star Warsy and would have worked really well in universe. This build uses the snot technique and regular plate stacking interchangeably to get the most amount of details while making sure it looks like a Lego set that you could find on store shelves. The very front, where all the sensors and guns are, is where I had the most fun designing. There were several snot pieces held together with bars, and it all comes together to make a really detailed section with pieces like the binoculars to get the bars really close to each other. The cockpit is the same piece as the X-Wing since they look so similar, and if we take a look inside, you could see the kind of detail that I managed to fit in. There is room for a minifigure pilot, and even controls and an interface for aiming and piloting. You'll notice a lot of references to the X-Wing in this design, including the astromech and some markings that I'll get to later. The astromech was one of the things that I decided to prioritize so that you could have the play function of being able to take its full body in and out of the starfighter. The back section with the engines was one of the main things that took so long to design. There are a lot of different angles that I had to make sure were perfect, plus some weird shapes and greebling added to that. There's an offset greeble with grills, and the engine has intakes made with curved slopes. If we take a look at the underside, you'll notice that there are actually 3 engines. I didn't notice this until I took a closer look at the concept art and saw it from an angle that made me realize this detail. The belly is also made up of wedge pieces, and this is where you can connect it to the universal stand. I also took the liberty of adding a stripe in dark gray to the bottom to break up the colors. The wings are made up of some very interesting angles. The front and back are different, and when I first started making this model, I went with a brick build approach, but the different slopes didn't line up so I couldn't get a straight line across. Those stripes made it very difficult, but I did manage to find a solution using transparent boat pieces on the bottom. Then the section at the end with the gun was another part that was slightly difficult, but you can see one of the choices I made was using a grill piece and some clips for the barrels. On the opposite side is the larger wing. It would normally be off balance, but I did add some transparent pieces to the bottom so that it could rest on them. This wing has a very subtle angle, so I had to go with the steepest angle being the 6-long slope. There's also some detail breaking up the middle of the wing with this small ridge and the greebling indent. To make sure that the wing and missiles were secure, I used angled Technic pieces instead of the ratcheting hinges for extra support. It also looks like the designers attempted to copy some of the X-Wing details with the striping and large red patch, but there are also a lot of dirty parts like the dark gray and tan. Moving up is the area with one of the guns. It is attached to a U-shaped hole in the wing, and making this was a little difficult, but eventually it turned out good, and I was able to get the shaping right and even add detail to the barrel of the laser cannon itself. The backside of the large wing has all of the missiles. There are 5 in total, and in the concept art you can see one of them being fired off. I made sure to give them half a stud of space between them, and they look pretty good themselves. They only connect to one point to make sure it's easy to disconnect and fire at the first order. Since this is such an asymmetrical design, it wasn't an easy copy and paste. One of the first details that I thought of using was this radar dish inside of some arches for the wing detail. It's connected on the bottom with some bar and clip pieces to make sure it stays securely in place, and then the rest of the wing is built around it. Because of details like these, this model turned out to be really fun to make. If you want to build this for yourself, you can find the instructions on Rebrickable or through the link in the description. Also, like and subscribe to see more mocks by me. Anyways, I wanted to thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys next time.